It is a good question, and of course, for Zoomers are going to keep us asking that question until Infamous pick up their hero here, but at the very least, I like the Ogre. I like seeing this hero get its value. I know how strong of a hero it is. It is one of the best fives in the meta right now, but that also makes you think, is this really just going to be a Moo Lycan, and then we're looking for that Costabile later down the line? I feel like Infamous can almost make that call and then immediately go in for the counter pick. Like right now, if they really wanted to, they just slam the Lumiere Troll, and then you are miserable on this Lycan, and there's absolutely nothing you could do about it. I think that might be where this draft just immediately goes, and it's again the power of second pick. You have those immediate counter picks. I just wonder what would then Costabile play to then make that counter matchup work, because it does feel like they're reaching a little bit with this Lycan here, and they need to find something to pair with it, not just for that Ags timing, but also just to make it worthwhile, because it is going to be a lane that, aside from that ultimate and the ability to play up on both the Bane and the Lion, doesn't really attribute all too much to your lineup.
Yeah, and now you get into that weird spot as well with the change to the wolf bite from the Lycan. If they are looking to maybe run it at the 3, where the wolf bitten target has that set attack range. So now the number
Ooh.
of sort of other carry options you could throw in there is a little bit limited, because if you're taking someone with a longer range, you'd then be sacrificing it for that play. So see what four zoomers do. On the Infamous side, though, that Monkey King pick is looking quite nice at the moment.
Yeah, and knowing Infamous, we've seen Samum play it, we've seen Lumiere play it, don't know where it's going. It could very likely go versus the Lycan, and now for Zoomers, they have to decide for Infamous. Are we banning out more mid laners here to try and cover our Void Spirits lane, or are we banning out what could very possibly just be our safe laner right here in the phase? It's a really, honestly, nice forcing move from Infamous where they hide the fact that this hero could go anywhere, and okay, they ban out mids. I think the Batrider is the ban you have to go for. I think that if someone was able to play it again, I'm surprised that they didn't pick it sooner, but I think they, again, are trying to be more tricky with their lineup having second pick, but at the same time, I don't feel like Infamous is really going to be unhappy with anything here, and yet again, Costabile Luna, it just gets banned out, and unfortunately, the Luna and the Ursa, it just feels like those are the heroes that Costabile plays best. Not to mention, now that you're playing versus this Monkey King, you need to choose if you're going to double down here or if you're going to go for a hero that's going to be able to kite him. Are you going to look for another hero like the Terrorblade or the PA where you have those later item timings? Or do you say, I'm going to try to kill this Monkey King somehow and maybe get a Blink Dagger and another item and then play a more tempo-oriented lineup? It's a hard question that they really don't have a fantastic way of answering.
Yeah, and a lot of the times we see when you want a hero that just sort of jumps in onto the Monkey King, the Ursa is the call, but Infamous banned it out quite a while ago. They're just very much not going to let Costabile play that hero a second time in this series, so don't really have that immediate option. As for Zoomers, that's a bit of an interesting one. The final ban coming out against the Timbersaw. Really only a hero that teams were banning against Black and Yellow because Zero was so well known for it. No other team has really looked at it with any sense of consistency.
And I like the Drow ban there.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of the one thrown in, of course. Drow versus Centaur is a sad matchup for the Drow usually, but maybe saying that we don't have the best natural damage coming from our Monkey King and Monkey King running at Drow isn't something you'll be happy with, but okay,
All
classic.
right.
This is TI, where
We'll
we've
see
got
if it
Tiny
still
Lycan.
works.
I mean, of course, like you mentioned in 730E, of course, you have that set attack range now, so it doesn't feel nearly as broken and more intended than it should feel. But at the same time, Tiny also got nerfed at every single avenue in that carry position. It's why we've seen it more in the 4 position and the 2 position than we've seen it carry, just for the simple reason that it doesn't feel nearly as nice. You don't farm nearly as quickly without those absolutely absurd splash numbers, of course, that were there during that TI meta. At the same time, whenever this Tiny was meta, and it was the BTS Pro Series right before TI patch, Monkey King was the one hero that could actually beat him up. It's the one carry in the game that just stays on him with those Jingu stacks and that Wukong's command, and then suddenly, Tiny is a hero that has no escape plan. You don't have any escape plan aside from being wolf bitten. Once you're in, you're kind of just in, almost dead to rights here. I think that's where Infamous, they're saying, how do we want to finish out our draft here? Do we want to counterpick the Void Spirit? Do we want to go for something that's going to slow down this Tiny, hunt him around in the jungle? And Dawnbreaker.
Okay.
Okay. Well, that will be Monkey mid then, but
Right.
when you're a Dawnbreaker, We've seen him play it so many times, as well as the one time they played versus Four Zoomers, they won with it, and we will get to this breaking point where Lumiere is just no longer feasibly killable. Not to mention, lanes really well versus the Lycan. Lycan is a hero that, at least early on, hates playing it versus slows. Once he gets to 6, of course, you'd rather have a stun, but Lumiere is just going to have a relatively free time down there. And speaking about Lumiere during the entire series, this is his hero where he gets Phase Echo Saber, and then suddenly he is absolutely everywhere. Not to mention, we get to see that combo with the Centaur War Runner where you Stampede in, Hoof Stomp, Dawnbreaker ulti in, and then suddenly you've got 4 heroes on 1. It's just the numbers advantage that Infamous are definitely going to try to push this time around.
Yeah, and the thing about the Lumiere Dawnbreaker in particular, when it has struggled for Infamous, it's been a scenario where you took the Dawnbreaker versus a very much conventional carry, right? And so your Dawnbreaker's damage doesn't quite match up to a Luna's or a Terrorblade's, for example. But with Tiny in that position for Costabile on the other side, that is not quite that same concern. This is not a scenario where Lumiere will absolutely be outscaled in terms of damage as the game goes on.
And I'm a little bit concerned, to be honest. I'm glad that Moo, at the very least, got on an offlaner here. Of course, it is the battle of the comfort heroes and what we think that the role of an offlaner should be, and he's definitely filling it in an interesting way, but will Wolfbite be enough is the real question. Because at the same time, for Zoomers, that is their timer. That's their moment. That's their 40-second window where if they don't win those fights, they will lose it very quickly afterwards.
Well, we are ready to go here. Third and final match of the series. As a reminder for folks, this is not an elimination series, so neither one of these two teams will be knocked out should they lose this final match. But if you win this series, you move on to that upper bracket final, and you're basically guaranteeing yourself a top 3 finish in this event. So the stakes are high. Nobody's going to get knocked out, but you absolutely want to be able to punch that ticket right now early on. And, well, we shall have to see. Both sides taking us in, let's say, non-meta directions, I guess would be the phrase. Pulling back the Tiny Lycan for the Four Zoomers side, as opposed to Infamous pulling out that Position 1 Dawnbreaker, which, honestly, it feels weird, ET, to say that Position 1 Dawnbreaker isn't weird, right? We've seen it so many times from this lineup, and honestly from other teams as well, that you just started getting used to it.
Yeah, and it does hit that tipping point, right? Where you've got the Echo Saber, you've got BKB, you've got Radiance, and then suddenly your opponents can't really deal with you. To that same point, though, Dawnbreaker has always struggled in the same avenues where she still struggles to hit towers, she still struggles to push down those buildings that other carries are much more efficient at, but at the same time, that's where I think this Tiny is really going to be tested at whether or not it's going to still be that A-lister that clearly Four Zoomers are banking on, and it still does have, many strengths. It's just honed in, just all the way back. Everything just got nerfed all the way around, more or less.
And I do love that play in the river a little bit here, as we're seeing it's kind of some standard standard stuff is what I was going to say. Michael, though, connects with the Earth Spike. That sets up for the stomp, and all of a sudden, Costabile, body blocks are coming in. Sacred trying to stay in front. Michael, how much longer to the Earth Spike now, as he'll throw it out, and there's first blood. That duo, again, just like in Game 2, they are so unbelievably hard to deal with. And Costabile at level 1, the second they see that he has the tree grab, they're just straight in onto him. There is no defensive capability there whatsoever.
At the very least, Husky is on an Ogre. He's not on that same LC. He's going to be able to, I think, hold down the fort just a little bit more, look for those 2-man ignites, but at the same time, they're going to be incredibly obnoxious for Costabile to deal with, because not just that, I think Costabile is on a much worse hero than the Terrorblade, because at the very least with TB, you've got your 1 or 2 waves during the meta where you can actually, contest for CS. In this lane, it feels like it's definitely going to be him just throwing that tree pretty much every single time for the ranged, and it's something that I think Michael and Sacred can both very easily exploit, but that's where I think also we're going to see the test of the Ogre, whether or not that hero is going to be able to win this lane for his teammates. Going to be incredibly important.
The problem is this Ogre's going up against a Centaur, who is maybe that little bit tankier than what you'd normally expect to see in the off lane. Michael, obviously, a very different story. If he can get the stuns and the ignites down onto that line, then obviously you can bully him out of the lane, but Sacred may be a little bit of a tougher target here, but Husky still has to make the attempt as... Well, Courier sort of ran in the middle there. Nobody was able to finish it off. They were more concerned with the direct damage onto the Centaur, but BT, as you always point out, once you pick up this Ring of Health, it's so hard to force him out of lane. He's got it already, and Costabile on the other side is already starting to run a little bit low on his regen. Husky, though, actually had 2 salves. He'll use 1 there, so the Ogre comes prepared, but on the Infamous side, they're just so strong in this lane.
Yeah, and once he gets the Vanguard, I mean, all this harass coming in, okay, and the 2-man stun. Just every single time it's Michael breaking up any of these aggressive plays, and he is struggling more. Again, you gotta draw attention, it is Ogre, it's not the LC who was kind of held back in that lane, but at the same time, okay, yeah, there's no way they go for that play, I was gonna say, even though Michael was very aggressively kind of clarity up there, but at the same time, think he's going to walk all the way back to base, maybe stack for his allies and give Sacred the solo lane, even though I think Husky's already making moves over to block this camp again.
Yep, exactly that. Blocks the camp out, so no significant equilibrium control for Sacred, which, well, does mean that his time solo in this lane is not going to be all that useful, but he's already gotten off to such a strong start, I'm not really sure he's going to care at this point. As what's going on here? Michael, well, he went back to grab the bounty rune, but Husky's not quite fast enough to catch up to him. The Lion's got boots, and the Ogre, as of right now, does not. But still a nice play from the Ogre. Try to step away, get a little bit of experience now into Costabile's hands as well in the 1v1. And the only problem is I just really can't see them doing too much to this Centaur directly, no matter really how well Husky plays. Maybe with further levels, if they can get that Avalanche Toss combo into play, that changes, but for right now, this just feels like a pretty stable lane, although they might actually try to turn. They get the Hoof Stomp down, the Earth Spike comes in onto 2 once again. Double Edge is going to be there as well, but Husky's able to absorb that damage.
Yeah, it's simply the frustrating fact of Centaur Warrunner has an 120 damage nuke that usually ends up hurting you more than it ends up hurting him, and at the same time, you look over at the mid lane, with everybody kind of being stuck in their lanes, Samum is just walking away with it right now. 23 and 12, it's just brutal for Gunner, and the Lion gets to walk out of the lane. And unfortunately, without Husky mirroring Michael every step of the way, that's no bottle refill, that's nobody TPing over towards the mid lane to help him out. We might even see, yeah, I think Zfrig, even though he just got his urn delivered, goes all the way back to the base just to give this bottle refill over to Gunner. It's that bad mid, and no way does he do this. Does he get a solo kill here?
He's got it.
Whoa.
All right.
Well, this'll work.
Jingu stacks up. He goes for the Boundless Strike to secure it. Then one final right click in, and Gunner... I mean, this is already bad enough. I guess now he doesn't need the bottle refill, but it's not exactly the way that you wanted to go about it. 2 kills on the board for Infamous, and lanes are looking really good. Samum has mid under control. Bottom lane... I guess technically the Tiny's still farming, but you're getting just as much on your Centaur. And then up top, Lumiere really has not experienced any significant pressure. It's A who's getting hit up here, but they're not even really going to be able to take him down. He'll TP back to base, and now Lumiere is going to want to get involved, trying to push onto Z-Freak. If he gets that final hit on the Starbreaker, maybe, but without it, he does have to fall back. He's holding a Fairy Fire, so yeah, Z-Freak can't really afford to go any further forward. Lumiere? Does he really? He's going to try. He's going to get it. Oh, man, that's... good instinct from Lumiere. He knows at that point the Lycan is too far away to help out, and Z-Freak can't just turn and get the damage in he would need for the kill, so Infamous find another one, but now you do have to send Lumiere out of the lane for a little bit, but he just picked up a kill. I think he's okay with it.
We'll go right
The
mid.
lane. Samum, can he get the Jingu? He needs that lifesteal, and he is surviving for now. Nope. Remnant pulls him in. Gunner hits him with the XD. And now they're going to try to push onto Michael as well, but diving the tower, not looking great for them. But that is a nice bit of revenge for Gunner. They're just barely able to hold it out. If Monkey King gets one more hit in with that Jingu, I think he has the lifesteal to maybe survive that, but very nicely done by 4 Zoomers. They get their first kill of the game, and it comes at an exceptionally well-timed moment for your Void Spirit.
Yeah, and that was when Gunner was really grasping at straws for that play. He didn't even have his level 6 whenever all of that goes down. It's just them trying to bring that same level of numbers, and okay, Husky. Well,
coming in, Jingu will be there. Oh. Maybe he can't take the 1v2, but with just Husky alone, he can very much find that one, and We've got Michael now TPing into the lane as well. Get the D ward first. Takes out the sentry, gets the vision with the earth spike, just very nicely done, and the gunner's eyes will be taken away. The only problem is that rotation isn't a rotation for any sort of actual aggressive play, although Michael, see him sort of hanging out in the middle, he's maybe debating whether he can actually go for the wraparound. But I think they would need to pull Gunner a little bit further forward for that, because right now he's just going to center his tower for a bit and wait this out.
Yeah, and at the very least, you're keeping your line centralized in case that Ogre does just play up in the mid lane, as we already see Husky kind of making that rotation over, but this is also very smart. Unfortunately, it is going to be scouted out by Forzumer's Observer Ward, but they want to get aggressive here. Kostabile is going to be forced to TP out. Yeah, I was going to say, so does he find it?
Ooh.
So close.
Very, very close indeed, as they will just go for the tower instead. Meanwhile, mid A, he just wanted to soak some experience, but Z-Freak's coming in to sort of ruin that, well, I say ruin that plan. He is a bit of a nuisance, but A will remain in the lane while his teammates grab that tier 1 tower, and now Samum going to TP himself back in. So they may not have gotten the kill onto Costable, but you push him away from that bottom lane, you take the tower, so that section of the map really, really doesn't serve much of a purpose for them at the moment, but they are making a play onto Lumiere. Could he try to get out with the Solar Guardian? Yeah, I think that might be the best play for him, but the Remnant's going to catch him out, and he's just not going to get the chance. Okay, Forzumer's picking up the kill. I mean, you have to bring 4 heroes up to the top lane, but you find the pick. That's the carry down, and that's a shot at the tier 1 tower to just sort of trade out for bot. So, overall, not a bad play for Forzumer's. However, over in the middle lane, they do need to defend another of their tier 1s, but you see Husky came in, he dropped the Bloodlust, they'll get the Glyph here too, so this could buy enough time for reinforcements to arrive. That's assuming, though, that Forzumer's are actually bringing anyone, and right now the only person coming is Gunner, and he is walking up the middle lane.
Yeah, he's got to get here, and without him, they don't really have the wave push to actually deal with this, and even though Sacred is not the tankiest centaur at this stage of the game, with 4 points up and Retaliate, there's just nothing you can do. I think that's also where Lumiere is completely fine with taking that death. I was assuming they were going to need to set up on mid to give him a target to Solar Guardian out to, but instead they just get it without him, and oh yeah.
With the Nightmare, but he doesn't have the Fiend's Grip. If they have that, I think they can actually give that a go. Samum would then potentially have the damage for it, but no Fiend's Grip. They don't want to take the risk. A, though, is still hanging out pretty close, so they're playing very far forward for a team that doesn't actually have the grip to work with. But now, by pushing that far forward, they push their opponents back, which leaves Z-Freak kind of in the middle. They are going to be able to jump in onto him. There's no time-lapse up on this Weaver for quite some time, as he's only level 4, so Samum comes in with the Primal Spring and gets himself a bit of a freebie.
And I'm worried. I'm getting glimpses of the Infamous who take all of your outer towers, and then they just chase you around in the jungle for 10 minutes, and oh, Gunner gets stunned up, but you're forcing out Astral Steps. This is the worst case scenario for that Void Spirit. Every single time you get those abilities forced out of you, it just ends up delaying your game, and looks like it might end up being a race for this Arcane Rune bottom, but you'd also love it on that Void Spirit, and we'll see if it actually ends up being kind of a contest here, because if he steps again, he knows, yeah, he knows there's only one step, and it's just the little plays like that where your Void Spirit is starting to feel very limited, and when that jungle starts to get more contested by the Infamous lineup, the one who's going to feel it the most is Kostabile, who is steadfast, working towards his item timings. He's got the Echo already, but okay, dive mid.
Yep, they're going to look in onto Michael. There's going to be the Solar Guardian, though, keeping Michael alive. Lumiere is now directly into the fight, so they are going to look to take this, but Moo, very nice play, getting in with the Centaur for the stun. Samum is going to be dropped. And, okay, now we've got a bit of an issue. There's a pause coming out. Oh, there it is. Yeah, Kostabile does DC just as he's trying to get into the fight. So we are going to wait for him to get back in, but at this point it really does feel like Infamous have nothing to really fight with at this point. They've already used the Stampede, and I'm not sure they're really going to be able to get out here, but the question is, who do they target up? A would obviously be the far easier kill, but they've got Lumiere semi-surrounded with 3 heroes sort of in the vicinity to attack him.
Yeah, it's hard to ignore the all chat. It's fun stuff. Don't toxic, but whoa.
Well, hold up, guys. Yo,
okay. No? Okay.
I mean, Kostabile did reconnect, but there wasn't any sort of go-ahead, but, I mean, nobody repaused, so I guess they were okay. And for Zoomers, they do take the easier kill there. A gets taken out, that means Lumiere is able to fall back, but even with that being the case, Four Zoomers very clearly the winners of that fight. They just push in, they get the big kills, and I don't think they were ready for that Centaur to be in there. Or not their Centaur, but the Centaur from Mu.
Yeah, I don't think they were really ready for how fast that collapse came in from the Lycan, and that's also where, unfortunately, Sacred doesn't have his Splint Dagger yet. So unless he's immediately with the lineup, he's always going to be playing for his own game as opposed to his team's, and goes to Belay.
They do get the
Oh,
Boundless
nice.
Strike. That sets up for the Earth Spike. That sets up for the Fiend's Grip, the Wukong's Command,
Perfect.
and the Finger. It's Gosabla. You have to kill him. Take no chances. Finger of Death, Wukong's Command, doesn't matter. You get the kill. They move along, and they've got a potential push onto that top lane here. Tier 1 tower is open, and Sacred, he's tanky enough to maybe just stand in here and absorb that damage until the creep wave arrives, although there really is no creep wave. It is a siege creep, and not much else, because Z-Freak was able to cut it.
Yeah.
Look for the kill instead, though, Gunner.
Oh.
Well, they don't have Fiend's Grip, so it would just be a nightmare into whatever Samum could hit him up with in terms of right-click damage, so not really sure that they were in much of a position to go for that kill anyway, but they do at least force Gunner away, so he's not able to pick up the farm he wanted in that triangle, and now Costapole getting run at by a Bane. If a Bane's running at you and you feel the need to back off, it's not a great indicator of where you are in the game right now, but for Zoomers, well, they are trying to swing momentum their way. Costables going to push mid. That's a very forward TP from Sacred, though, but they're going to go for it. Stampede comes in. Solar Guardian there as well. The Boundless Strike connects onto 2. They get the follow-up stun from that Guardian, and now the Tiny dropping low. Can they somehow save him? There isn't really anyone here in terms of defensive purposes for the Tiny, so they're just going to lose him. And now, yeah, they need to be able to clear up these creeps because the Lycan's just sending them in there, but nobody really has the HP to keep this fight going as Sacred is dropping low. Lumiere in some trouble as well. But they are still falling back. Gunner wants to keep the chase going, but Michael turns around, throws out the stun. Boundless Strike there. Samum, is this really a fight he wants? It's not going to be a fight he can get either way as Husky stuns him up. But now it's for Zoomers, who are on the retreat. They got the tower, though. Gunner. Okay, very aggressive move. He gets onto Michael, but now how does he get out? The answer is he doesn't, and,
Oh. Hee.
Samum, you better have legitimately disconnected, my dude. Otherwise,
No, he's covering his tracks. He's got a hotkey, but I wonder if they'll put the G's in this timer. No, we're past that. We're
lag,
so
sorry.
far past that. And then at the very least, Simone, it's a nice play from him, and it is 100% an overextension from Gunner there. But that's the fear of this Dawnbreaker safe lane. You gotta be concerned whenever you start onto these heroes, or when they start onto you with half HP, quarter HP. This Dawnbreaker ulti, the Solar Guardian, is just so incredibly strong, and that's Lumiere without his Echo Saber. He finished it up after the fight, so that wasn't even max power from him. And unfortunately, it feels like for Zoomers, they're making the plays that they need. Mu is only getting involved when the Shapeshift is available. It just feels like with those 2 deaths, man, Costa Belay is really starting to slow down on this Tiny. At the very least, the map is going to shift a little bit away from him, but at the same time, every single time he shows his face, it is now Infamous's timing. They've got double Echo Saber, they've got, okay, not a Blink Dagger on Sacred. He actually decided to finish up the Tranquil Boots, which is kind of interesting, but they want to find these kills now, and they're going to claw and look for this Tiny every single time they see him on the map, and they did see him.
Got the vision down. They might run
Good
into
scan.
Husky as well, though. Yeah, the scan comes in. So Husky's actually going to TP out. He makes it away. Costable got out as well. So smoke play isn't really going to develop into too much, and 4 Zoomers do buy themselves a nice bit of time there. So one scan sort of saves the day for them.
Yeah, and at the same time, Z-Freak never stops split pushing. Of course, you still have that smoke on Samum for just a little bit, and he was going to try and look for that Weaver, but they're doing a good job of buying time. It's the same strategy that they did in Game 2, rather in Game 1, where they just kind of bided, waited on the edge of the map, played around their opponents coming to them. Unfortunately, Gunner doesn't have the same Boots of Travel build he went for in that first game, but he does have his Yule Scepter flying out to him, and with that, that's your easy kill. That's your guaranteed smoke play where you set up, you get the Yule's combo from the Aether Remnant, and then you get a free kill. And I think they're going to be looking to do that at least once, especially with the Vision top that 4 Zoomers have been able to play. They can make this pretty sick smoke where they cover a lot of ground in a pretty short amount of time.
We see that smoke play coming out right now. They're going to push their way forward. Mu, meanwhile, finished off the Helm of the Overlord, so They've got themselves an Ancient Creep to, whoa, okay, to work with. Unfortunately, that Ancient Creep just got too close to the tower, I think, and that is going to be a little bit of an indicator for Infamous. The question is, do they actually do anything to defend themselves? As of right now, not really. They're getting jumped in on. There's going to be that Yules. Remnant catches out onto the Monkey King. And Samum, he's just going to look to TP away and... Oh, hold on. Wow. Thought it had finished, but Gunner's able to get in with the last bit of damage, so Samum goes down. Michael got picked off as well, and for Zoomers, they're eyeing up the Roach Pit. Moo's going in with the sort of last few moments of his shapeshift, and I don't know if they take this quickly, but if there's no one to contest them, they might be able to make it happen, but instead, they want the fight. Gunner wants to push forward. There's that Yules again into the Remnant combo. They catch out A. They're going to blow him up so quickly, and now... I don't know if they really want to go back into the Roche Pit, because the Monkey King is respawning, and they don't have control of this outpost. The TPs could come in. Infamous could try to put something together, but...
Yeah. I don't know. It's slow, but I think they've just got it here. Just purely off the virtue that they don't want to get dragged over towards that hill that they lost control of. Unfortunately, A, in that instance, just knows they placed a ward up there. They don't have a sentry down just yet. Walks to try and D-ward. And then gets killed by his opponents because he doesn't know about their whereabouts. But this is that buffer. Now Costabile can't afford to die once. He's going to be able to farm much more aggressively. This is a really nice farming Aegis for this team. Where now, of course, Void Spirit is most likely at a higher risk of dying in these team fights. But Costabile can finish off a good 2 items now before this Aegis ticks out. And then you are right in that danger zone where I don't know if Infamous are going to be ready for that fight, because Lumiere, he's doing the same build. He's getting a Radiance, but that also means that all this magic damage is going to be felt. They really need to be the initiators, or else they're probably going to die. At the very least, Sacred does have his Blink Dagger, so we might see a smoke or any play from Infamous, but they're really slowing down just a little bit, especially because Moo is just scouting out everyone with the creeps, with the wolves. He knows exactly where his opponents are playing, and unfortunately, money's tight on the supports. They haven't made a play in quite a while here, so affording sentries is a little bit more difficult for them.
Yeah, the sentries are sort of harder to come by. The vision, therefore, is not quite as strong, which means Infamous don't feel as comfortable pushing forward, looking for some of those pickoffs that they were getting earlier in the match. So you see the whole sort of game plan for them starting to slow down and grind to a halt, whereas for Zoomers are at the exact moment right now where they're starting to ramp up. They're looking for a much more up-tempo style, especially if they can continue putting pressure onto Lumiere and continue to delay that Radiance. If that doesn't come out until, somewhere 5 to 10 minutes down the line, sure, you still have to deal with it, but the Radiance is not going to be nearly as big of a deal for them if it comes in that mid-game stage as opposed to within the next couple of minutes, as Costabile playing pretty far forward there. He does have the Aegis, obviously, so even if he does get jumped in on, he would have that second life, but your 4 Zoomers, to a certain extent, you do still have to show a little bit of respect to that Infamous lineup in terms of their team fight strength. You cannot just walk directly in, even with the Aegis in hand, and just try to kind of slowly walk your way into a 5v5.
No, definitely can't afford to do that. We're going to see them, I think, back off just a little bit more. They don't want to end up in a situation where they just die on their side of the map, and then suddenly this Tiny is actually able to just be into your tower. Not to mention, the Lycan also pushes incredibly fast, and I'm surprised that Infamous haven't playing as heavily onto Moo this game. They really haven't found him in between his shapeshifts, and he's been playing in the same spot more or less the entire time. It feels like there could have been maybe a moment or two where if they try to catch him before he has that ultimate back up again, because unfortunately for them, I mean, he is incredibly farmed. He's got Helm of the Overlord. He's going to look for that Ags next, most likely, but he's just farming in an incredibly safe game for him. It just feels like the Lycan is never getting forced into a position where he could possibly die without his ult.
Mm-hmm. And this is always the thing that you look for with the Lycan, right? Playing him in that position 3 role. If he is allowed to farm without taking anything away from the other cores, then that's really the ideal. You get a farmed Lycan who can just contribute to these fights, and so far there really hasn't been any pressure on him. They haven't killed him off a single time, so I don't know. Infamous just really feel like right now they are losing or have already lost the initiative on a lot of these plays.
Yeah, it's becoming more and more of a struggle, and at the very least, you did have to disassemble your Echo Saber on the Monkey King. He doesn't have anything coming out, but you do have BKB, so you are able to at least move past a lot of that magic control coming in from the four zoomer side. But at the same time, I'm not happy if I'm Infamous. I want to make plays with my subs. I want to do something right now. And okay, Gunner, double leap, but
Jumping onto A.
Cliff.
They get the kill, but now they might be in trouble. Gunner's going to get hit up, use both of the steps to get in. Yeah, so they are going to be able to blow him up. The Finger of Death finds the kill. But now what more can they do? With the Wukong's command already down, yeah, four Zoomers can just sort of avoid the area. They can pick off around the edges. Michael gets taken down. Sacred falls as well. Samum has to activate the BKB to try to get away, but the physical damage is still really dropping him down. They'll take him out as well.
Living thing.
Oh boy, that's just rough. And, well, we were just talking about the fact that this Lycan hadn't really been pressured up at all. Moo's able to get in there. He picks up 3 kills. He has the shard for the for the extra wolves there to keep on pushing now that they have sort of shifted that momentum into their hands. So if you're Infamous, what do? You just really don't have a whole lot right now to play with. Your heroes still need to keep building themselves up, but you are rapidly losing control of this map.
Yeah, and they need to smoke, really, as soon as the Monkey King's alive here and look for the Lycan. That'd be the easiest play that I could possibly think of. And sure, it's great that they get Gunner in that situation, but until they deal with the Wolf, they really don't have any business sticking around in these fights. And they're not even able to survive in things like Monkey Ring. I feel like their lineup's really not playing at the speed that they could have done earlier. You do have this huge power spike where Lumiere does have his Radiance, but unfortunately, you look at the other side and Costa Bile has a BKB. I feel like four Zoomers are just getting more useful items than what Infamous are able to put down at the current pace, and yet again, Moo is just jungling during his timing when he doesn't have Shapeshift, and everyone else on the Infamous side is on the polar opposite of the map. And now, with the Shard, I mean, all of these creep waves are just always going to be pushing in. If a Lycan Wolf ever gets onto that tower, of course, they're affected by Cripple, so the split push is just going to be huge. And now, Infamous need to hit with this smoke. If they don't, they're going to just be forced all the way back into the top lane and into another position where Moo just gets to do whatever he wants.
Scan hit him, though, so they know that this is the area that they're patrolling, and, well, at this rate, if you're four Zoomers, yeah, look at them. They're actually just grouping up. They may just want to take this fight themselves and try and catch their opponents off guard. A Z-Freak, okay. Able to get through there for now, and now Moo wants in. The Shapeshift is there. Michael's going to try to lock this down. The Stampede now will be used. They're just trying to get anyone out that they can, but there's just not enough. Even with the move speed, they can't get away from the lockdown. They lose both of the supports. Samum, can he get himself out? BKB is activated, so he's just going to try and keep on jumping in between the trees here.
He's getting eaten by the bug. It's off at least.
He's hiding for now. He knows if he jumps again, they'll spot him.
Oh, that's
TP's
funny.
up in 5, and I think he might actually make it away. So you only lose the 2 supports there, but if you're Infamous... Oh, hold up. Okay. Gunner almost made that play. Didn't even really know for sure that he was there, but Samum is able to escape. But if you're Infamous, you only lose the 2 supports, but that was your smoke. That was your attempt to be the aggressor, and you end up just sort of blowing it. You lose the supports, you lose the Stampede, and there really was no opening.
Yeah, now where do they look for the fight? Because, of course, they used Lycan ulti. They got 2 supports. They got away with murder. You kind of have to go out onto the map, and unfortunately, there's just not that same level of activity that maybe 10 minutes ago, Infamous were always the ones running at you. We haven't seen a grip land in what feels like forever from the Bane. It just feels like there hasn't been that same kind of united front coming from Infamous this time around, and four Zoomers are just simply filling in the space and farming everything that their opponents really aren't. Not to mention that even though Moo, he doesn't have the Helm of the Overlord Ancient creep, he just has an Alpha Wolf just on Costa Bile all the time, so this Tiny does absolutely so much damage. Not to mention that he's looking at the Blink Dagger, and Lumiere is not even close to his BKB. He's gonna get tossed.
Oh, well, Avalanche into toss into 8th the Remnant. If they could blow him up right now, that would just lead them directly onto the high ground, and they've got it. Lumiere couldn't keep himself alive, and now they're not actually gonna go... Hold on, there we go. They are gonna go for the tier 3. Costable will push his way forward. Infamous now have to bring heroes to defend, but without that Dawnbreaker, I'm not really sure there's much of a defense for them to put together. There's no buyback on Lumiere either, so they really do just have to let a full lane of Brax go.
Yeah, And it's an early Lycan ulti. It doesn't feel nearly as comfy as something more prolonged, but 25 minutes, that's a Rax in what feels like 5 seconds, and there's no defense. Of course, everything, all of the net worth on the map on the Infamous side has been put into this Dawnbreaker, who, unfortunately, it's almost the Dawnbreaker trap, it feels like, where you need BKB so badly to play this hero. You need that, or you need the Shard, and I think that Lumiere does have that Shard, but it just feels like at the pace that's currently being played, there hasn't been enough plays in the interim to actually allow this Dawnbreaker to kind of feel okay, because look at this Roche. It's just gone. This is Aegis number 2. Shard probably given over to, I can only imagine, Husky, because everyone else has it here, but this is Ags finished up on the Lycan, so we've got Wolfbite, and they're coming.
Samum? That's not just... That's not a play. He gets blown up immediately. Sacred's going to be dropped low, taken out as well. Lumiere is dead too. Kostapole just cleans all of them up with that wolf bite, and I don't know what Infamous can do now. They do have a couple of buybacks, but again, Lumiere is not one of the heroes, and yeah, they're just going to call it there.
Call it.
Wow. 4 Zoomers, I mean, a bit of a callback to that TI strat with the tiny Lycan, speaking of which. Kostapole, one last kill there onto A, and... well, it has been nerfed a little bit, but at the end of the day, it still did exactly what 4 Zoomers needed it to do. They take the win in this match, and they take the series as well.
It was the pause. It was the pause. That was where everything went wrong for Infamous. Everything just started to fall apart there. But unfortunately for them, I mean, pretty convincing loss post that. I just feel like we didn't see, and maybe it comes back to Sacred with not having enough farm, joining up with his team a little bit too early. But I felt like 17 minutes into the game, you have this Blink Dagger on Centaur, and is that too late for you to actually make these plays across the map? I felt like there was a time in this game where kills were even, maybe even favoring Infamous a little bit, and then everything just kind of stopped. They lost that one team fight mid on the tier 1 tower. That was leading into that top jungle fight where they lost the kills near that hill open to the Roche pit, and then they lost the first Aegis. I mean, Forest Zoomers just played a really, really tight objective-based game, and Moo is the highlight, absolutely. He just did really whatever he wants, but I feel like that's also because Infamous weren't able to find him. There was never really that moment where Moo is caught without his shapeshift, a smoke after, 5 seconds where he just won a team fight. Then you get the kill on the Lycan, and then he's pretty sad with himself. I felt like Infamous just weren't able to find their moments, unfortunately, and then they just started to heavily fall behind, and that's where, even though the Tiny, it's clearly not one of the more popular carries at this tournament, but it's still a little bit more conventional than the Dawnbreaker and Lumiere. You need that BKB. You need BKB, Radiance, Echo Saber. Then you can play the game. Every play that leads up to that is just so crucial, and unfortunately for Infamous, they just kind of stopped making plays. Again, I felt like we saw no grips, we saw no fingers, we saw no Dawnbreaker, blink stuns with Centaur. Just feel like the play just kind of fell off the face of the earth.
Yeah, it's such a stark contrast as well, considering in the previous game they had that same trio, Centaur, Lion, and Bane, and they were playing so aggressively. So I feel like there were just moments that they were able to take advantage of in the previous match that this time around they were feeling a bit more hesitant to really make that call, pull the trigger, and actually go for that. And if your support duo, if your Lion and your Bane aren't sort of being that aggressive tandem setting up for kills, then you really don't do a whole lot with this lineup, as we saw. Infamous 10 kills in that match. They were never really able to get themselves going.
Yeah, and now we'll see, because of course, Infamous, they're gonna get knocked down to lower, and it's gonna be a very scary lower. Of course, I think Infamous is one of the teams that has that kind of history of just dropping games versus everyone a little bit randomly, but when they look good, they look real good. I think anybody is going to still watch them and root for them, because of course, they got second at the last BTS Pro Series. Not that much has changed for them in the long term, but I think that's also where Four Zoomers, with some of their changes, especially in their roster, are definitely looking up.
Yeah, certainly playing at or near their best in this final game. So with that in mind, I believe we are trying to set up for a winner's interview here. Don't have full word on that just yet about who we're getting, or even if we're having one in the first place. So we are going to try and clear that one up here real quick. In the meantime, though, we are going to be hopping into a bit of a break. So if we get an interview, we'll be coming back to that. Otherwise, I will still let you guys know if we're moving on to that next series. So sit tight. We will sort out the interview situation and have an update for you in just a little bit.
your own style, that's just slang for you, ain't got it though. Talking like you got it, that's a problem, I might let them know. Freeze you like I'm Elsa, so my let it go. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Head to toe, said you got your own style, that's just slang for you, ain't got it though. Talking like you got it, that's a problem, I might let them know. Freeze you like I'm Elsa, so my let it go. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Never know. Talking like Geronimo, get dropped down like some dominoes. Blues and greens and pinks, I got a lot of those. Yeah, you know. Talking slime, I can't relate to snakes, I see a lot of foes. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Head to toe. Said you got your own style, that's just slang for you, ain't got it though. Talking like you got it, that's a problem, I might let them know. Freeze you like I'm Elsa, so my let it go. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Head to toe. Said you got your own style, that's just slang for you, ain't got it though. Talking like you got it, that's a problem, I might let them know. Freeze you like I'm Elsa, so my let it go. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. 10 toes, keep it thorough, stepping out for sure, though, time to let them know. Rubber band bands, I got a lot of dough, oh for sure. Working around the clock, sometimes I need me more than 24. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Head to toe, said you got your own style, that's just slang for you, ain't got it though. Talking like you got it, that's a problem, I might let them know. Freeze you like I'm Elsa, so my let it go. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Head to toe, said you got your own style, that's just slang for you, ain't got it though. Talking like you got it, that's a problem, I might let them know. Freeze you like I'm Elsa, so my let it go.
Okay, here we go. Hello, everybody. We are back, and we are now ready for the post-series interview. We have Gunnar gonna be joining us here. So, let's. I'll pull him on in here. Hope he's ready. So, here we go. Gunnar.
Hello.
Hello. Thank you very much for taking the time after the series to come talk to us.
Yeah, no worries.
Before we start the questions, let me just walk in your volume just a tick there. There we go. So, first and foremost, congratulations, hard-fought series. You guys were able to get it and move on, so very nicely done.
Yeah, it was fun. 3 games. Second game made it a little interesting,
Mm-hmm.
but can't be too easy.
So, first question I want to ask you here, because ET and I were, well, maybe not quite scratching our heads, but a little bit weirded out by it. You guys pulled back the tiny Lycan play for that Game 3 performance. Obviously, it was sort of all the rage in the build-up to and for most of TI, and then we kind of saw teams shying away from it. You guys choose to bring it back, and obviously it works out. Was that a call you made pre-draft to go for that strategy again, or did it just sort of develop that way as you were moving along?
I think the combo is pretty much the same, but we knew that they're really scared of me when I pick a spear hero, so they respawn like 4 single target heroes. They picked Bane, Lion, Bat Rider in the second game. They pick all these heroes, and they all suck for Zoo. So we were kind of like, we can take Beast or Lycan, and then we just ended up wanting Tiny with it. But we had a couple options. Tiny just ended up being what we got.
Nice. Well, worked out pretty spectacularly for you guys. Also wanted to ask, back to game 1. I know that was a little while ago, but your opponents went for that sort of Medusa Leshrac option, and during the game we were talking about maybe how difficult it would be for you guys to get in there and find those kills. As it turns out, Between yourself and your Ursa, you were just sort of able to tear through them. Did you notice specifically, sort of from the itemization, that there was a lack of durability and you just made the call to push in, or was that just the game plan all along and it just sort of worked out that way?
Uh, Ursa's really good at dealing with Medusa and Lesh specifically. Like, he kind of wins the we go on each other in melee and choose tankier battles against most heroes. And we looked at the Deuce and he had like a dataless rush or some shit. And so Ursa's like, I think we can burst this guy. And he's hitting this tier 2 and we're like, can we burst him all in? And I was like, I have Ags, I'm gonna silence all the supports. Everyone just go in the Deuce and we'll hit everything. And we like did it as our Centaur respawn, and he blinked in as the remnant was coming, like expiring. So we just like hoped the all-in would work with the Ag silence on the subs, and it did.
I mean, it definitely worked. We were just amazed because you guys were burning through that Medusa in what felt like 2 or 3 seconds at the most. So
Yeah.
nice to see that sort of confident play from you, and obviously it helped you get that win. So thank you for answering that. With that in mind, I'm going to throw it over to ET for a couple of questions of his own.
I mean, do you guys think if that play doesn't work, you guys just lose though? Is that like the fine line? Because that it looked crazy from you guys. You have like what? Ursa just finished his blink like a minute before. I think that's why you guys make the like
Yeah,
everybody.
Ursa had blink BKB, Centaur had just got his or had blink. I just finished my Ags right before the play. We kind of hit our timing.
Mm-hmm.
And in Dota, stuff might look weird. Like you might be 5k behind, but if you hit your timing, you're probably stronger than them because they might, have 1,000 gold floating. That 5k gold lead might more be like 1-2k because they don't have finished items. But since you have all your items finished, you should just go. If you can't ever fight with your timings, then you probably just lost no matter what.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, definitely. And I guess get kind of funny and poke fun at it a little bit. Did you lose mid in all 3 games? Is that I mean, that all chat is in game 3. That's fun stuff right there. But what do you think? Because I didn't think you lost mid in all
I feel
three
like the
games.
first 2 games were very even. Like
Yeah.
I mean, mid's really even, and then the third game he gets like Monkey King, and I literally said, guys, I'm gonna lose mid, and then he's gonna feed when I'm 6. It's like that always happens with Monkey King. You pick Monkey versus Kunkka. Kunkka hits 6, you get boated with a support, and you dies. Monkey like, guys, sorry, I died after going like 30 denies, and it's just that's just Monkey mid. It's the same thing when people pick Morphling. They have the issue where sometimes they'll just randomly die once because they didn't press their shift or they shifted down and they got like hexed in the middle of their shift. It's like Monkey Morph. These heroes just have a little quirk in one game. Every other game they'll just mess up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel you. I feel you. I mean, that's all for me. I mean, that's just a very nice series, though. I mean, especially in game 3, guys were super duper clean.
Yeah, you know, Moo Moo wanted to have a fun game too. Like the tree pick, he's been something he's wanted to play. So it didn't work out that well. So I think it was just something we were talking about. We wanted to try it out since we won the first game. We thought it'd be good, and we just went back to the normal stuff for game 3.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, do you think that experimentation pays off in a tournament where like randomly you just are able to pull it out, or a team's like, oh, they play this tree and then they lost with it? But do you think it causes teams to think you just have a wider like hero pool than you actually are running in your kind of A lineup?
I think specifically group stage is really easy to experiment. Pretty much once you're secured upper bracket, or even before, we always just say like these are scrims. Like don't even think about them. Just play your game. But for playoffs, especially if you win like the first game, the second game, you can use it to like bait stuff like, oh, we can play Meepo in the second game, and even if you lose, people might just look at the Dota buff, see a Meepo, be scared. It's that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. No, I feel you. I feel you. It's a big strength, but I mean, you guys are so stable now. I think that was like the big switch up. I remember in the previous BTS Pro series, you guys were picking like Tide Lena every single game, and then you'd win with it, and then you'd pick something else, and then you'd just like lose and look not so good. So do you think that now you're going in that more stable direction? I know that Moo's the drafter, at least in these lobbies. Do you think that you're definitely trying to shore up some of the problems you had in that previous iteration?
Yeah, our team feels really good right now in terms of the way we're talking. Like we've only been 5 players for a couple weeks now, but the way we talk in team fights, the way we talk about drafts, like everyone's really nice. Everyone's really good teammates. Costa's a great teammate. It's really fun to play with. So
Okay.
yeah, we're
On the up.
gelling pretty well.
On the up and up. Okay, that's all from me, man. I mean, thanks for talking with us.
Do I have to say before I go, just to clear the air? I don't pause aggressively as a toxic pause. Costa was actually lagging. He was yelling, I'm lagging," and had to disconnect from the game. So
He's not toxic.
I'll chat occasionally. I'll tip people. I'll voice line all the time, but for me, pausing's too far. So
Okay.
just to clear the air of that, you'll never catch me pausing a game toxically.
Well, I mean, and you did win, so, you know.
Yeah.
So
So
you were
my
right.
all
You're the
chat was
winner.
fine. We won the game. It doesn't
Exactly.
matter. But
Yeah, that's how it works.
just clearing the pause there, just so everyone knows. No more, Twitch toxic comments or something like that. No Reddit threads. Thank you very much.
Yeah, we appreciate you clarifying that for us as well. We were just sort of honestly laughing our asses off about it, ET and I, but didn't seem malicious in any sense there from you guys. So, Gunner, appreciate you talking to us. Appreciate you clearing the air on that one as well, and good luck further on in the tournament.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, able to get some words from Gunner there, and again, yeah, likes to come in and make sure that there's no misconceptions about what was going on there vis-a-vis the all chat and the pauses. You know, sometimes it gets a little out of hand, so nice to just sort of nip it in the bud right there before we get anything too serious or too juicy to work with here. But thank you again to Gunner. And with that, I believe we are going to be moving on here. We've got ourselves another series to play, and it is going to be another fantastic one, to be perfectly honest. We've got Lava taking on Thunder Predator. So Thunder Predator versus the team formerly known as Thunder Predator. Winner will advance to the upper bracket finals to face off against 4 Zoomers. The loser drops down to that lower bracket. So with that, we will be hopping out for just a second to get that lobby set up and underway. We shall return for the start of the Game 1 draft.